Schrader.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Dr. Bright. Really appreciate it. Tough to do. Very impressive that you're here. Could you describe the tone and reactions of Dr. Kadek and Dr. Azar at your January 23rd meeting when they had the all agencies meeting on the COVID virus? Could you describe how up to speed they seem to be?
In that meeting, sir, it was one of our first meetings that we had about how to address the outbreak. And because we had practiced, I came in with my list of needs, and those lists for money, people, and viruses. My request was met with a bit of surprise and puzzlement. I remember Secretary Azar looking around the room and saying, money, you need money, maybe there's money somewhere. I mean, it was just something that I could tell.
Despite the fact that we had the outbreak in China for some time.
This was January 23rd at this point.
Could you describe January 25th, if you remember, email exchange with Mr. Bowen on the mask situation?
I don't remember that specific, but I'm sure it was urgent. I'm sure that Mr. Bowen was sending me a notice saying, asking if this...
So you didn't ask him to come and talk to you, he just reached out to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about an email exchange with Dr. Kerr on January 27th? Did you reach out to Dr. Kerr? Did he come and ask?
Dr. Kerr reached out to me, I believe. This was because, again, he is a pandemic influenza expert as well, response, and he knows the vital nature of needing those viruses, and he was involved in prepping our secretary for a call he had with the Vice Minister Ma in China. And we knew a high priority was for our secretary to ask for those viruses. We've had challenges in the past of getting viruses from China from avian influenza strains and viruses. So this was a high priority because we needed that to get started. And he was alarmed when he wrote to me that morning indicating that the CDC director had reprioritized and actually indicated we did not need, or he did not need to, the secretary did not need to ask China for viruses. And it was alarming to us because we knew how critical it was.
Now that sounds incredible in light of what has transpired since then. So I guess my major point here is that we have a brave individual coming forward as a whistleblower, but he is not alone. There are many other experts, scientists, and manufacturers that realized we were in, if I may say, deep shit not a long time ago, long before the administration and the White House began to wake up. What do you think would have happened if Mr. Navarro had not reached out to you and actually responded to you? Where would we be now if you hadn't been able at least to get one person in the White House's attention?
It's difficult to speculate where we were. So even when Mr. Navarro reached out and strongly suggested action be taken on February 10th, February 9th is in the email, February 10th, it was conveyed to Dr. Kadek that we needed to ramp up production of N95 masks. That order did not go out, that solicitation did not close till March 18th. So even with the pressure of Mr. Navarro, who I believe shared a sense of urgency about this outbreak, that pressure alone still did not spur Dr. Kadek and our strategic national stockpile into that urgently needed action.
Well, that's very disconcerting, and the reason we're here today, perhaps. Last question, if I may, and then switching gears and going to the other side of the spectrum. While it's been hard to get folks' attention here in Washington, D.C. and the administration on the seriousness of this, I think most people now are convinced this is a very serious issue. And I'm a little concerned we're going too much the other way in terms of information. You alluded to it here on the vaccines. I think some people are under the impression there's a vaccine going to be developed in a couple of months and everything's going to be fine, I can go back to work. And we unfortunately have to juxtapose economic issues. They have to have realistic expectations at home, and you, I think, accurately indicated, well, it can take up to 10 years, and the quickest we did, I guess, was Ebola, and that was, I believe, 5 years. So, is it tough question to ask? I suppose you don't have to answer, but I mean, I don't want America to think they can just not get back to some semblance of a new post-COVID life until a vaccine comes out, because that could take years, and there's a chance the vaccine will maybe not be as effective, much like our flu vaccines that with the flu mutating year to year, sometimes is, so I just want to make sure that you would, ask you if you would agree that we can't wait to open up America entirely until a vaccine is there. We have to use some of the other parameters you've already suggested.
We have to make sure that we have some scientifically led and driven decisions on how and when it's safe to reopen America. If it happens before we have a vaccine, I mean, if we have a vaccine faster, that's great, but if we do need to open America up sooner, we need to make sure everyone understands the risk and understands the risk of their activities, and everyone has to play a critical part in following those activities to reduce the risk. We have to have a testing plan in place and enough tests to make sure that we know when people are exposed so they can be quarantined and isolated and not continue to infect others. And we also are developing a number of therapeutics that could offer some potential benefit prophylactically or protect you almost like a vaccine before you're infected. And those are being developed maybe even faster than a vaccine. And if healthcare workers and frontline workers can use those therapeutics, then that might offer them some protection as well until there is a vaccine. So there's a number of steps in between now and a vaccine. I believe if we let science lead the discussion and we inform America of the risk and the clear guidance on what needs to happen and people follow that guidance, then there is a stepwise process to getting back to work and back out of our homes.
Great, thank
Gentleman's
you very
time
much.
has expired.